Pie and a pint. Pie and a pint. Pie and a pint. Pie and a pint.
Welcome back to the Pint and a Pint podcast. You should know us by now, and if you don't, why not get to know us by following us on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and if you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button? So earlier on in the week, we've spoken to Ben Thornley, class of 92 start, who was a complete gent and a proper sound guy. So Ben Thornley, welcome to the Pint and a Pint podcast. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thanks guys. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So what a story you have, by the way. I think, well, Luke's definitely read your book. He keeps going on about it for the past week and a half, 2 weeks since you said yes, pretty much. But
yeah,
what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to just go over some of the quotes that have come through, sort of friends of yours and legends from the game as well. So first of all, we've got Nobby Styles saying the closest thing to George Best that he's ever seen. So what a quote that is. David Beckham saying, Ben would have outdone us all. Paul Scholes saying, a step above us all. He could do everything. And then finally, Gary Neville saying, one of the most outstanding talents that he's ever played with. Hearing that from sort of teammates, football icons, your friends from the past, and looking back, how does that make you feel, sort of hearing them comments?
Well, it's difficult to put it into words when you're talking about the people that you've just mentioned. I mean, you're talking about here somebody that, well, people that have played for the country, people that have won the World Cup, people that have been, you know, in the forefront of football connoisseurs and people that have watched the game for years and years and years and have done everything that there is to do in the game. So to hear things like that from them, regardless of the fact that I know them, that they were friends of mine, it was something that I wanted people to be truthful about. That was why I wrote the book in the first place. Is that, you know, I mean, Luke, if you have read it, you will realise that, you know, it's not all sweetness and light or anything like that. And you know, there are times when, and especially myself, I thought it was important to be honest. And the quote from Nobby Styles, I mean, people will just say, "Wow, that, you know, that is a statement." It wasn't something that was consistent with Nobby, I have to say. It was just a goal that he'd seen me score in a particular tournament. And I think that the people that he was speaking to around the table, that included Samat, happened to be just a few days after that. And I think what he was doing was reminiscing, seeing George Best score the type of goal that I scored in that tournament, which I probably did, you know, on 3 or 4 occasions, whereas George Best used to do it week in, week out. So it was important for me to get across to people that, you know, I would in no way compare myself to George Best, but hearing it come from somebody like Nobby Styles, who, you know, obviously was a huge player in the 60s and won the World Cup and played for Manchester United when they won the European Cup in 68. I just wanted people to understand that I'm not the sort of person that would big myself up. And these are the sorts of things that people around the time that I was growing up with, the likes of Paul and David and Gary and Nicky Butt and Ryan, that is what they thought of me. And I wanted them to be honest. And it was really nice that they came out and said some of the things that they did.
It could have gone other way if you asked them to be too honest. good
well, yeah, that's true.
So,
I draw the line
you're
somewhere.
obviously world class for him to say, like you say, you've asked him to be honest and for him to come out with the stuff they have. It
speaks volumes, doesn't it? Because I mean, if you're going to ask for an opinion off a fullback that you were no doubt tearing up every day in training, like someone like Gary Neville, it says a lot. If you were doing that to him, you know, so it puts it in perspective.
Yeah, it was a very cathartic exercise, and as much as when I was first approached to do it, I just couldn't think of anything, not worse, but you know, why would anybody be interested, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the way that the book was pitched to me, and the way that the guy Dan Poole, who approached me about it, I thought that the way that he was prepared to use the people that he used in it gave it a lot more weight, if you like. And I thought that he wrote it brilliantly, and he introduced the right people with the right quotes at the right time. And I really enjoyed it, and it didn't matter to me whether nobody bought it or whether it flew off the shelf. It's something that I can say that I've done, and having finished it and obviously spent the time, a year to 15 months, actually getting everybody together to be able to pull it off. I was really, really pleased with the finished article, and something that nobody can take away from me.
No, certainly speaking for myself, I obviously told Josh and Nick about it when we found out Ben Thornley were coming out. I was like, what? That's amazing. And I told them about the book that I'd read because, like you say, I think cathartic's the word, because, I think people who might be aware of your career and obviously the tackle that didn't end it, but certainly stopped it potentially, being what it was. I think the book really handles that well, because it's optimistic in that, you're very honest about how dark that was at times, and like it being a melancholy experience and how it affected your career, but how you take so many positives from that and how you're revered by the people that you grew up with and trained with and everything. It's a great read. I think certainly I'm not a footballer, obviously, but I think any young footballer should have a read of that book, would be my kind of statement, and to show you should be appreciative of what you've got while you've got it, make the most of it.
Yeah, I think that's what you have to do. And that's why at times in the book I was critical of myself, because there were still opportunities there for me to get back to a much better level than I ended up playing at. And, a combination of the way I started living my life, etc. But, I mean, it is all in the book. And like I said, I wanted to be honest. It was important that I didn't paint a picture where I was feeling sorry for myself, because there were instances throughout my career where I know that I was solely to blame. So, I wanted people to understand that I didn't just blame the tackle for the fact that I didn't play for Manchester United. There were certain elements and things that I could have done better that would have made me a better footballer and probably a better person as well.
Yeah, it is absolutely a brilliant story. But going right back to the beginning, what got you into football and where did your passion for the game really begin?
I was 7 years old and I was watching the World Cup in 1982 in France. Was it France? No, sorry, Spain. What am I talking about? It was in Spain, wasn't it? Which is still my favourite World Cup to this day as well, when Italy won it. But it was Brian Robson. Obviously, I'm a Manchester boy, so all my family who were into football, they were all Man United fans. There wasn't anybody else on the scene. And I watched Brian Robson score that goal against France after 27 seconds. And it was just something that from then on in, I wanted to do. I mean, I couldn't have envisaged that I was going to be any good at it. But I was only, like I said, I was 7 years old. And I just wanted to go out and do it. And my dad was very encouraging. He was never a sportsman at any level. He played at college and university, but he didn't go into anything professionally, and he didn't shove me down that road either. But I think after a little bit of time of seeing me play in the garden and coming out with me and making sure that I was kicking with both feet from an early age, I think he soon sort of realised that there was a little bit of a chance that I could be decent. And that was how I got into it, just by watching Brian Robson. And then the only thing I ever wanted to do, and obviously back then you didn't have the TV coverage that you had, and the best I could do about watching Manchester United was tuning into the radio when they were playing the likes of Dukla Prague and Dundee United. Actually, they played in the mid '80s in what was the UEFA Cup, and I suddenly became not just a Brian Robson fan, but a Man United fanatic.
So what was it like then, coming through sort of the youth setup at United, obviously one of the biggest clubs in the world, probably at that time, but at the time was a bit of a sleeping giant?
Yeah, obviously they've been starved of any league success for a long time. The Premier League era was just dawning on everybody. myself and the lads that you've just mentioned, along with the likes of Robbie Savage, Chris Casper, John O'Kane, Keith Gillespie, we all joined the club in July of 1991 under the brilliant tutelage, I should say, of Eric Harrison, who everybody who has worked with him both before us and after us will know what a wonderful guy he is, what a great coach. Doesn't stand any messing about. Make sure you keep grounded, but every day you go out on the training pitch, you enjoy it. You know that at times you're going to get a bollocking from him, but these are all things, along with all the jobs that we had to do and stuff like that, that help you develop for whatever he's thrown at you in later life and make you a man before your time, if you like. You're 16 years of age and you're coming into a place of work and they expect you to grow up very, very quickly. That's not to mean that you start getting carried away and swept away with where you are. It still means that you've got to work hard. And when you feel as though you've done enough, then there's even more to do, because you've got stepping stones. You've got to get yourself into the youth team. You've got to get yourself into the reserves. And as much as you're a team, I think any of the lads that you would ever get the chance to speak to will tell you, that grew up with me, that there is always a little bit of competition there to see, you know, on a Saturday morning, who was going to be picked for the A team, who was still in the B team, who was on the bench. You know, who was going to be the first one in midweek to be called up to play for the reserves, and who was going to be the first person to get the nod that you were going with the first team, or that you were reporting to Old Trafford to be in the first team squad. And these were all things that spurred you on, because you're at Man United, because you see these fabulous players like Mark Hughes and Brian Robson and Eric Cantona, Dennis Irwin, Peter Schmeichel, Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce, all in the first team dressing room. And of course Giggsy, who had played with us when we won the Youth Cup in our first year, he was already established in there. And we knew that obviously he was a special talent, but we knew that if you were able to work hard and you got recognition, then it didn't really matter to Sir Alex how old you were. I mean, you saw that when he signed Wayne Rooney for the 17 years of age. He knew what a brilliant player he was going to become, and that is exactly what he did. And the lads that I grew up with were tremendous. I mean, they were all brilliant. Nothing to do with what they said about me, by the way. We just all got on so well off the field, and that is why we gelled so well on it.
So you're saying there, Ben, about the sort of competition, who's going to get that call up? Your call up, well, your first game came away at West Ham, 26th February 1994. What's that feeling like then, running onto the pitch, United shirt on, that's it, I'm a United player.
I'll tell you what, running onto the pitch was less daunting than warming up in front of all them bloody West Ham fans, I can tell you. That one of the things that I've never understood, I mean, it's a great stadium, the Olympic Stadium, but the bowling ground, Upton Park, whatever you wanted to call it, that was such a difficult place to go for anybody. The crowd were right on top of you. They were raucous, they were hostile, and West Ham had, they had good teams. I mean, it was West Ham where we went and couldn't put the ball in the back of the net for Blackburn to win the league. They were a really, really solid outfit, West Ham, and they've had some very, very good players, as we know as Man United supporters over the years, with your Rios and Michael Carricks and what have you. So yeah, I got a call. Well, I got a tap on the shoulder from Brian Kidd on the Thursday morning to tell me that I would still be training with the reserves, as it were, but on the Friday morning to come in with my club suit and we'd be going to Old Trafford after training with them, with the first team, for the game at Upton Park. And I knew then that it wasn't like now where the manager will take a squad of whatever he needs for the bench, plus one, maybe two others, just in case somebody gets injured, somebody falls ill overnight. Yeah. Back then, it was literally your 11 starters and your 3 subs. There weren't any extra. So I knew that there was a really good chance that if things were going to go well, that I was going to get on the field. And sure enough, that happened. It was just... I say about things that can never be taken away from you, and along with winning the Youth Cup with all those esteemed names that you mentioned at the start, at the top of the show, making my Manchester United debut is definitely something that I know, and I'm aware that millions and millions of kids all around the world want to do it, and they never get the chance to do it. So even though, after that, I only made a handful of appearances for reasons that we obviously all know about, to make my debut was an unbelievable honour and a privilege. And again, like I said, something that will never ever be taken away from me. And I have actually got I haven't got many of my shirts, but I have still got the one that I made my debut in.
Yeah.
I always wonder about that because there's so many players over the years I've seen for like made their England debut or whatever, and it's like the first cap and they trade the shirt, and I'm like, are you mental? That's the absolute prized possession, surely. So it's good to hear you kept that.
Yeah, it's a good job you didn't say anything too bad about West Ham, because Josh's wife's a West Ham fan, so
Yeah,
she'd have been coming for you.
Well, they're actually my London team and purely and simply because I made my debut against them.
Yeah.
But I just
nice.
wish they'd have stayed. I wish they'd have stayed at Upton Park. It's a fabulous stadium, the Olympic Stadium, but it's just not conducive to football at all.
Yeah, the Berlin or Upton Park, whatever you want to call it, great stadium. I only went once. We lost 5-3 Burnley, and like you said, you're right on top of the pitch. There's like such a little boundary between the edge of the pitch and the stands.
Yeah.
Opposition players can hear absolutely everything. I always remember Rob Green was in goal for West Ham when we went, and inches from us, and he was getting dogs abuse the whole game. I don't know how you can cope. It's that close.
You couldn't get more opposites with that stadium and the one that they've got now.
No.
Because
Very
there's
true.
so much of a gap. It's massive.
Yeah.
Huge.
So moving on then. So after that, you did get obviously that serious knee ligament damage injury again in that reserve match against Blackburn, and we've all sort of seen the tackle from Nicky Marker. But what was sort of running through your mind, sort of at the time of that happening?
What you mean when he'd actually committed the tackle?
Yeah.
I knew that there was substantial damage with where he'd caught me and how hard he'd caught me. And I think that was compounded by Gary Walsh in our goal, standing on the edge of his own box, saying that he heard the snap.
Yeah.
And Sir Alex Ferguson was in the stand at the time. He was watching the game, and my dad was just literally sat about 2 rows in front of him, and he tapped him on the shoulder and he grabbed him straight away, because I think that Chris Casper was in the crowd. He was watching the game because he was injured, I think. And he said he heard it as well. And when you hear things like that, you know instantly that it isn't a shin pad, especially with where he caught me. And I knew that there was going to, well, I knew that it was bad. I knew it was bad. And then that was obviously confirmed when Jonathan Noble, the surgeon, opened my knee up the following morning.
Yeah, it really does sort of send shivers down your body, really, doesn't it? Especially when you're describing it. And I know sort of the comments from the surgeon and whatnot, but I think we've got a sort of on the back question from that, haven't we, Josh? From
yeah, so we put it out. Obviously, we put out that you were coming on, and for any questions on Facebook and things like that. And one that leads into the injury quite well was from Andrew Steed on Facebook, and he just wanted to know, how do you find the motivation to sort of rebuild your career and keep sort of anxieties at bay that comes with an injury like that, which I think is quite important on that, because it's not only physically you've got to recover, but something like that obviously it's going to take a mental toll. So
yeah,
that's something that you.
Yeah, and it's a more than reasonable question when you're at such an early age in your career and you suffer a setback like the one that I had, and linking in nicely with what you just said about the mental aspect, because at this current moment, in not just in football but in sport in general, that they're making such a huge thing that there is this support for people that are suffering mentally with whatever it may be, with whatever problems they may have, and I think it's brilliant that they really have sort of pushed to make sure that there is a network of people that any sportsman not just sportsman but anybody, when they're feeling mentally challenged in terms of things just not going well with either the family life or the work or whatever it may be, that there is somewhere to turn. And back when I was coming back from an injury, that it just wasn't there. You know, they were introducing all sorts of things. Dietitians were coming in, and obviously the sport was evolving with the sciences and everything, but there wasn't anything there really in place for the psychological impact of having such an injury, and especially, like I said, at an early age where you feel as though you're on top of the world 1 minute by making your debut, and you know, perhaps being told that you're going to be playing in an FA Cup semi-final in a matter of days. And then, you know, the next minute, the bottom of your world falls out because your knee's in such a mess that you don't actually know whether you're ever going to play again. And finding the motivation was difficult. I mentioned it many times in my book that it was a dark place, and literally the gym at the Cliff was a dark place. You could walk in there. There were only slit lights at the top, and when you're down there on your own, and you're going into the sort of autumn months as we are now, it gets cold, it gets dark, and sometimes that is just how you're feeling yourself. But I was fortunate that, and I always relay back to this, that I've got a wonderful family. I've got great friends. I had great support inside the club with both the players that I played with and the management team under Sir Alex. And also Dave Fever must get a special mention for me, because he was the physio that just come in that summer from Wigan Rugby League, and I was his project, if you like. You know, he probably knew me better than any other player in that club in 94. The 94-95 season, because he spent so much time with me. But boy, was I grateful, because he had an extensive knowledge coming from Wigan Rugby League, where he'd seen a lot of these knee rehabilitations going on that he'd actually overseen, because they were just so rife. So it wasn't completely alien to him to put me through my paces. And bearing in mind that I hadn't had my cruciate repaired, because the damage that happened with my knee was the medial ligament, which is the one that runs down the inside of your leg that gives you all the stability. And anybody that's had a cruciate knee ligament injury knows that after 3 or 4 days of having something like that, you need to move it, otherwise it just locks in place. And of course, my leg had to be in plaster, so I couldn't have the 2 operations. They just wouldn't have worked. So to be able to combat the fact that I haven't and still haven't got I would say it's about 80% gone. I've only got about 15 to 20% left. I needed to compensate with strength in my legs by working my quadriceps and my hamstrings, more importantly. And he was the one that led me down that path of being able to strengthen my legs sufficiently that I could get back to playing again. But that also came with its dark times as well. And both the manager and Dave Fever said to me, listen, if you're ever feeling unmotivated, then you just need to tell us. You're going to be stuck in this treatment room for 5-6 months doing your rehabilitation. It's understandable that at the age you are, you're going to become distracted, you're going to become despondent, and we need to identify that. But if we haven't done, you need to come and tell us so that we can give you a little bit of time away, give you a little bit of a break to go and spend with your friends or your family, and even just to get away for a few days and have a change of environment. And they were brilliant like that. And they were the sorts of things, along with obviously the groups of people that I've just mentioned, family, friends, lads at the club, they were the people that were able to motivate me to get back to where I was.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I can't even, like, myself and Josh have actually both had an ACL. We didn't have as much to lose though, Josh, did we? Just a couple of days ago.
No, not quite, no.
But you know what it's like, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The rehab, even for someone who lives a pretty sedentary lifestyle like me, I don't move around much, as you can probably tell looking at me. But probably why I did it, how I did it when playing football, to be fair. But yeah, what you were saying there just brought that back. Like them first few weeks in it, Josh, after you've had it done, and they get you trying to do that exercise to actually lift your leg without using your hand, and Jesus, it's so difficult. So the thought of then going back in the environment, like yourself, returning to training, likes of Scholes, Beckham, it's just, it must be so hard. I've always thought that with footballs ever since I've done my ACL. I always look at the ones that come back and think, fair play, that it must be so difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very hard. But I mean, you get people that come back even stronger. You look at Alan Shearer, he did his absolutely sensational. Roy Keane, I was actually playing in the game that Roy Keane did his at Ellen Road. And he came back. I mean, unbelievably, he actually came. One of my problems was that I'd been away for not doing nothing, obviously, but my problem then became being able to shift weight. I never had any weight on me up until that injury. And then it was just a constant battle. Roy Keane actually came back thinner than when he did before his injury. He looked like a machine, and obviously he went on to become a sensational footballer as well. So there are flip sides to it that people do recover completely fully and play at the top level for a long, long time, and they are just two examples. Niall Quinn's another.
Yeah.
So obviously that's sort of the darkest, worst moment you've had on a football pitch. So just to flip it, what's your best moment, most memorable match? Is it United debut? Is it even something like Aberdeen, Huddersfield? United?
I mean, obviously scoring in the Youth Cup final was brilliant for me. Making my debut, I don't think anything will be topped. I mean, obviously I played in entertaining games. Obviously not for United's first team because I didn't play in many of them. But I have played in entertaining games. I remember when Robbie Keane was playing for Wolves when I went to Huddersfield in my first season. I remember scoring the winner in like the 95th minute there. And that was quite sweet because you mentioned, Luke, at the top of the programme about fullbacks that kick you to death.
Yeah.
Now, Wolves had a particular fullback, an Australian lad called Kevin Muscat.
I knew where you were going as soon as you said
he
it.
was
An animal.
Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
One of these that when he's right up behind you, and when your goalkeeper's kicking out and you're obviously facing him, he's up behind you and he's kicking you in the back of the legs and he's like sort of rabbit punching you in the kidneys and pulling on your shirt. He was horrific, and any chance he would have got to have done you, he would have done. Well, he did Craig Bellamy with a particularly horrendous tackle. So to do that in the 95th minute against Wolves, who were obviously a team that were going to be fighting it out at the end of the season. It turns out neither of us were that season. But yeah, to do that was quite memorable. And obviously I was still endearing myself to the Huddersfield fans at that point, because I think it was probably around the September time. And that just about nailed it. Well, certainly for that season anyway. But it was quite sweet that I had to run past him back to the halfway line after 94 minutes of being kicked to death.
So I think one more question that certainly I want to ask. So moving to present day, obviously you're a big United fan. What are your thoughts on United currently? Thoughts for the season? How do you expect it to go?
Well, I must admit, after the way the season ended last year, I just couldn't ever see that we were even going to get fourth, never mind third. With the group of players that he had, they absolutely I won't say every game. In fact, I will actually say that from when they played Spurs on the 19th of June, the only poor performance that they put in was against Chelsea in the semi-final.
Yep.
That was the only performance that was below par. They were given a little bit of a fright by Southampton at Old Trafford. But aside from that, even against Sevilla, they had chances to have won it, and they conceded, two relatively poor goals against a very, very good side that obviously went on to win it and know how to win that competition. But I thought that we played as well as we could have done to have won that game. And then, who knows what would have happened in the final. But I don't think that any manager on the planet could have succeeded in doing what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did. That was the absolute pinnacle that he could have achieved, is by finishing third from the position that we were in. Yeah. That some of the performances between June and I would say the end of July were nothing short of sensational, with great goals, scoring at will, scoring for fun. Now, obviously, this season, they haven't got off to a particularly great start. We know that. I mean, I was down doing the game at Brighton, and albeit I'm glad the handball rule has changed, I'm not sure whether that one actually would have done, because he had his hand in a position that I hadn't spotted at all. But it was given, and we got those 3 points. Now, if we hadn't have had those 3 points, we would be bottom of the league with Fulham, which is very, very worrying. Yes, I know it's early days, and I appreciate that we do have a game catch up against you fellas, Luke. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
can't wait for that.
So I think that obviously forgetting about the what was a slight humiliation against Spurs. I mean, nobody in the Premier League, I'm not just talking Man United, I don't think anybody in the Premier League should be losing by 5 or 6 goals, and especially not Man United. But the international break, hopefully, has come at a time where players can go away and focus on something completely different. They can come back now knowing that they've got an incredibly tough run of games, a very intense run of games, 3 games in Europe before the next international break. And we've got to go to Newcastle and we've got to go to Everton. And sandwiched in between that, we've got Arsenal and Chelsea at home, who have both started the season particularly well, as Arsenal especially. Now, what's weird about this season already is that the teams that finished third, 1, 2 and 3, have already conceded 5, 6 and 7. And I think that if you'd have put money on that, I don't think any of us would be sitting here now. We'd be, lording it up in Barbados somewhere away from it all, on yachts, because we'd be millionaires. But that is just the way at the moment that this is going. Now, there are teams that are in a much better position than we are, but there are plenty of games to go. We've made signings in the transfer window. We need to improve. I don't think there's any question about that. We have to improve, certainly defensively, because that was where we made our name last year, was that we were able to score goals. We would always score goals with the firepower we had up front and the way the lads were performing. And obviously the introduction of Bruno Fernandes was a major coup in January. But we weren't conceding either, or, we weren't conceding regularly. And already, I think this season we've conceded more goals at home than we did for the entirety of, I can't remember which season it was, which is a mind-boggling stat. But the season's nowhere near over. It's only just begun. And yes, you'd obviously like to start the season with, maximum points. But I think only Everton and Villa have done that. And everybody can beat anybody. I think Villa have proved that with what they did to Liverpool. Spurs, obviously a very good side, but they would never have expected to stick 6 goals past us the way they did. Leicester going to Man City and completely blowing them away. And we have to remember that Leicester then lost 3-0 at home to West Ham.
Yeah.
So, it is a topsy-turvy season. I have no doubt that fans not being in the stadia is really it affects me even now, just doing the commentary there. I'm used to it, but you'll never get used to it if you can sort of comprehend what I'm trying to say, is that you've got no choice. You know what the protocol is of getting into stadia these days, but you're just waiting for that, that one game where fans are actually allowed in. And we could debate this until the cows come home, but, reading that Arsene Wenger had, people inside the London Palladium the other night for an audience with him indoors, and yet football matches. And it's not only, it stretches further than that. It's the fact that you're seeing all over the place now on any news feed is that clubs are saying, if we don't actually get the support from the government, or you don't start letting fans back inside these stadiums, then I don't know, 20, 30, maybe 40% of these clubs will go to the wall. Yeah. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see what's happened to Macclesfield or what happened to Bury last year. And we've seen Wigan on the verge as well. Yeah. And that just should not happen. And I know, my mate from Sky has got his voice behind, supporting these clubs by filtering the money through. And I hope that does gather some momentum. But I similarly hope that Man United gather some momentum as well. And this, like I said, is a particularly difficult run of games. But what better way than starting it, than going up to Newcastle, knowing what a tough place it is to go, but knowing they won't have that 55,000 or whatever it is screaming fans behind them. It makes it a much more different, sort of proposition when you're going up there and you're not facing that. Because I was there last year and we didn't play well at all and lost 1-0. I can see us going up there and really kick-starting these next sort of 5-6 weeks before the next international break. In fact, it's not even that, is it? It's 3 weeks, nearly 4 weeks, that's all. And let's see where the land lies. But I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I thought he did an absolutely amazing job that, like I said earlier, nobody else would have managed to do. I'm completely behind him because he's the Man United manager. I'm rooting for him constantly to do well, as I am with the players. And, my job is made a lot easier when the team's winning, I can assure you. So let's hope that starts on Saturday at Newcastle.
Yeah, so what it is, Ben, it's a Pro 5 quiz on your career. So Josh is just going to run through sort of 5 questions, just quick questions, all about yourself, just all about sort of what's happened in your career and sort of what things you've done. So I'll let you take that away, Josh.
Yeah, so number 1, who did you score your last professional goal against?
Ooh. Professional goal.
Yeah, 2002 it was.
Was it St Johnston?
It was.
That's a good one. Put that
out. Number 2, how many Premier League appearances did you make for Man United in your career? Was it 5, 7 or 9?
9 it was.
Correct. It's flying. You received 1 red card in your career in a Scottish Premiership match against who?
Rangers.
Hearts.
Oh, it was Hearts. Sorry, it was Hearts.
Unless you got another against Rangers.
I didn't actually get on the field. I was sent off while I was warming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What did you do to get that?
I did. I know. I do actually remember the Hearts game because we still won it 3-2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd won a penalty for us in the first half, and the fullback just kept kicking me, and he caught me with one, and I just had enough, and I just booted him, and the linesman on the far side was flagging furiously, and I knew what was coming. So, but fortunately, we still won the game. But yeah, I do remember getting sent off at Pittodrie against Hearts.
What did you do at Rangers then?
I had to go at the linesman shock, and he'd come over and give me a red card.
Oh, amazing! Question 4: who was your last Manchester United appearance against? Premier League appearance, I think it is.
Middlesbrough.
Liverpool.
Oh, was it Liverpool? Was it?
Yeah, I think you come on for Gary Pallister, I think.
That Easter time.
Yeah, that's it. Michael Owen.
When Michael Owen got sent off.
Yes. That's it. 1-1.
I should have got that.
And last one, you wore shirt number 29 and then 23 at Man United. But when you left United, you wore 1 number for the rest of your career. What was it?
12.
Correct. Any reason behind 12 or?
No, well, there wasn't. I actually, Steve Bruce did give me 11.
Hmm.
Did I wear 12 when I first went to Huddersfield as well?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what the website says.
I do remember. I was pretty sure because I always wore 11. Obviously, it playing in the youth teams and what have you. And then I got given 11 at Huddersfield, and then Steve Bruce signed Klein Weinhardt from Leeds, and he went to give him 12, and he didn't want it. So, I mean, what difference does it make what number you're wearing? Unless you're really, really superstitious about it. I just said, Clyde, would you like 11? And he was really grateful. So he took 11, I took 12, problem sorted. But yeah, it didn't bother me, that.
Perfect.
Ben, you've been absolutely class. Thank you very much for coming on. We massively appreciate it.
Yeah. Not a problem, guys. I wish you all the best with it. And anything you need, just give us a shout. Take care.
Lovely, Ben. Cheers, mate.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
All the
Bye-bye.
best. Cheers.
See
Bye.
ya.
Let's get on with our score predictions. And Josh, we will start with you. You had Derby versus Watford 1-1.
Yeah, I did. I thought you'd turn the corner. You hadn't.
Corner
Because
turned into a roundabout.
Corner, yeah, you've gone straight back. It weren't a corner, it was just a turn in the road. And now you're still on that. You're still on that straight and narrow to League One. I really fear for you. I've said it for a lot of the season. I think the only reason Philip Cocker is still your manager is because he sent someone to ruin his house with coronavirus. So he's not been able to replace him yet. I do think it's inevitable in the next couple of weeks. We lost again, didn't you, last night?
Yeah, lost to Huddersfield 1-0. Played really well. First 45, absolute collapse in the last 45.
Yeah, and obviously you're without Rooney against Nottingham Forest. I know he's not been great, but I think he's still. We showed against Norwich, didn't he? He's still got that bit of magic if needs be. I don't know. I don't think you'll win. I know Forest is shit as well, but.
Yeah, so I actually did put on Facebook on sort of Derby County fan page. I put on a bit of a poll about Cocker in, Cocker out, or give it to end of the Forest match and see what happens. And we had 118 votes for Cocker in, 71 for Cocker out, and 30 votes on all depends on the Forest match. So majority is still behind Philip Cocker, but me personally, I voted him to sort of go out because
he needs
just not performing, is he?
Get rid.
Yeah,
I think it's been incredibly hard for him. I do feel sorry that last year were complete shambles in terms of everything that went on behind the scenes with Mason Bennett, Tom Lawrence, Richard Keogh, the money financial side of it with selling ground to not Mel Morris's own company. And, just been a bit shit for him, hasn't it? But
yeah,
you're in a new season now. You brought in a couple of players who you wanted. I mean, is it his choice to sell Max Lowe and Jayden Bogle? I don't know, but again, I just don't know where we'll go from here other than a new face as a manager and people starting to play for him. But right, Luke, you rambled on. You had Derby to win 2-0. Talk us through that.
Yeah, a bit like Josh. I just assumed, obviously, without saying much other than Rooney's free kick, I just assumed that he'd turned the corner and he just needed a bit of a bounce. But I've not seen any of the game, I'll be honest, but the results have been poor. He needs to go. Simple as. I don't get that poll. Has right surprised me. Forest game, let alone being a massive local derby, it's a 6-pointer. Yeah, but I don't know what's happened with Forest anyway. Themselves, they should have been.
I don't know. They just they didn't back Lamucci or whatever he was called, but they were first ones getting rid of him, weren't they? So
Didn't they win in last minute of the day, or have I made that up?
Yeah, Houghton's first game.
Yeah,
he's 1-1 and
so. I mean, Houghton's a safe pair of hands. You'd think they've made it. He could have been. You could have got him in. You know, that's why you've got to make the move.
I was the only sensible one, actually. I had Watford to win 1-0, getting myself 5 points as well.
Yeah.
2 points. Yeah. Don't know what to really say on Derby. They're just shit. Just not doing well, are they? But, Paul says keep Cocker in. I reckon it will depend on what happens at Forest. So we'll see come the weekend if we are under Rooney.
Is it on Sky?
Yeah, Sky.
I will be watching that.
Yeah, Friday night on Sky. So, Newcastle versus Man United. Josh, you had 2-0 Newcastle.
Yes, because we just lost 6-1 to Tottenham. Well, we've had our best 2 performances in our last 2 games of the season. Second half against Newcastle, we were really, really good. It ended up being quite comfortable, but it were 1-1 until like last 5 minutes, and then we scored 3 later on.
Does that not worry you? It was 5 minutes to get 3 goals. I mean, it's 1-1 with Newcastle, 85th minute or 86th minute.
Yeah, but we'd had a fair few chances. Bruno missed a penalty, but that has been a problem for a while. I'm hoping Cavani can make a difference in that, sort of putting chances away, because Martial's not started the season well.
So that's 2 games, 0 points for you, Josh.
Yeah.
Luke, you had Man United to win 2-0.
Yeah, I was confident they'd win. I think Newcastle started well, but you don't. I think if you lose 6-1 on your Man United and you don't follow that up with a win, I'd be shocked personally. And there'd have been huge questions over Solskjaer then for me. Whereas
He'd be managing Derby, wouldn't he? After that,
he's done what he's always done so far as a Man United manager, where they need to sack him while Pochettino's out of work, but he's done just enough to keep his job, just to make sure he stays in employment, and Pochettino will no doubt go to another club, and United will rue the fact that they didn't just fuck him off. That's the downside. That's the downside, Josh. I'm sorry.
No, I think you're right. I think we will regret it if we don't.
He won't start to work for. He's been out a year now, maybe.
Yeah.
Needs to get back in, or he just becomes Paul Jewell.
He's a name from the past. But, I had Man United to win 2-1, so another 2 points on that one. Josh, to Burnley, you had West Brom to win 1-0 and a kick in Luke's knackers.
Another one I got wrong.
Another 0 points, actually.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be like a barnstorming game, and it was 0-0, wasn't it? I didn't watch it because it's £14.95. And I didn't even pay for United. I'm definitely not paying for West Brom Burnley.
Who'd pay for that?
No, but it's 74 people, apparently. Well, 73 plus you. But yeah, I thought West Brom would nick it, and they didn't.
Well, cheers, Josh. Thanks for that one, mate.
No worries.
Luke, you had Burnley to win 1-0 with Ben Mee being fit.
So he wasn't, so I get points.
No, you don't.
Caveat. It was a much better performance, but let's be clear, West Brom are a bad team that will finish rock bottom of the league. It's probably 2 points lost. Ashley Barnes pulled 2 unbelievable fucking saves out of Sam Johnston. First half, he took it down on his chest from a corner, maybe 8 yards out, absolutely hammered it on the volley. Great one-handed tip over. I was already celebrating. I was up off the sofa. I was already kicking dog, going mad. But he saved it. And then in second half, cross from McNeil, who was the best player on the pitch. He's been out of form this season, but he was right back on it, which was really good, positive for us. He was fantastic. Cross from left, and one of Barnes' stupid headers where he goes like that. Absolutely powers it. And for all the world, it's going in. And then Johnston just goes. And maybe like that part of his finger tipped it round post. Unbelievable save. Nick Pope made a great stop as well in second half, like a double stop.
Come on, give it us. It'd be great on Spotify.
I can't remember.
30 seconds of silence to Luke with that.
Pope saved it with his hand, and then there were a guy running up to follow up, but he dropped really quick to smother it and tip it round for a corner. We were the better team, without question, but like I said, West Brom, it reminded me very much, sorry to any West Brom fans, of the Carabao Cup games we had against like Millwall, whoever else, Sheffield United or one. It reminded me of them though, like against Millwall, they looked every inch a championship team. So it's a bit, I don't know if he's worrying. Chelsea only drew there. I'd take a point. We needed it. You get a point on the board. We needed it big time. Bit of confidence back. Players back fit. Pope looked on it again after his horror show at Newcastle. And Ben Mee and Jack Cork are back fit now, or they will be for the next game apparently. Goodmunson started, which is his first game in ages from the start in the league. Jay Rodriguez were back fit on the bench. So there were positives for like the next few weeks, but it's kind of too.
I've got two questions for you then, Luke, on that. One being, do you think Sam Johnston's got an outside chance of being the third goalkeeper going into next year's tournament?
I've not really considered it. He needs to. I don't really know. I don't know enough about him. I think he'll probably concede too many at West Brom to be considered. That'll probably be the only clean sheet he gets all season. Not because of him. Their defence is absolutely terrible. Like that Higart scene, 36-year-old Branislav Ivanovic playing at centre back. But yeah, no, he was really impressive. Made some really good saves, and I hope when we're talking third choice, we're on about Pickford being the one to drop.
Absolutely, he's absolute Kieran Dyer, isn't he? It's so bad.
Only thing he's good for is assault, as we've clearly seen.
Has anyone seen that Graham Souness saying, "Oh, he's absolutely assaulted him," and then they put that tackle on Graham Souness did back in the day where he absolutely went through that player.
Yeah, but he was a midfielder. It comes with territory. What the fuck is a goalkeeper doing? Trying to like les off with Van Dijk's legs? He scissored the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a joke tackle. I was saying to Josh at the time on WhatsApp, wait, right, fair enough, he's offside. Why the fuck has he not been sent off? It's mad.
How is he allowed to walk the street?
I think the reaction's been ridiculous, though.
Why?
Players get injured. Fucking hell, they're on about.
He's saying that.
He's not a Man United fan, we promise.
If that were Pickford on not Rashford because he hates him, if that were Pickford on Bruno.
I wouldn't ask for rules to be changed. Yeah.
So my second question for you, Luke, before Josh kicks off, is: are you worried about Burnley? Sort of being on the edge of relegation? Do you think?
I think because of the instability within the club at the minute, which has been reflected in our transfer window and the things that are going on behind the scenes. I think our squad, we need to keep people fit. We're 2 injuries away from undoubtedly going down. Chris Wood got injured. I mean, I'm saying if Chris Wood got injured, he missed a fucking sitter. I never mentioned that. Unbelievable cross from Westwood. 7 yards out, Wood, header, perfectly arrowed to his head. You know what Wood's like? Best header of a ball.
What were header like?
Wage. And again, I was out of my seat assuming it had gone in. Crossbar, bang. He hit crossbar twice. Oh, how did we not win? Yeah. Anyway, we're a couple of injuries away from being knackered. Ben Mee being back will be huge. Him and Tarkowski and Pope. You will not find a better back three in the league now that Van Dijk's injured, in my opinion, and I stand by that. I really do. I'm biased, but I stand by it. I'd have that ahead of Maguire and Lindelof and De Gea any day of the week. I really would. But am I worried? Yeah, of course I am, because we've had a bad start. 4 games, 1 point. You can't be happy with that. But I know what Burnley are like. We've had such shit starts before. 2 years ago, we were on 12 points going into New Year's Day. We finished 11th, I think it were, at the end, because we always find a way to grind out the points. It's not going to be pretty. I think it'll be 3 out of 5 teams that go down and we're one of the 5. It's just about making sure we don't win when we play them teams away and we beat them at home and nick points elsewhere. So yeah, I'm talking your Sheffield United. I'm still saying Brighton. I know they've had a couple of good points. I think they'll be down there. West Brom, Fulham, and whoever the other one was. I've already forgotten. It's in that arena.
I think, did you say Aston Villa?
No, I definitely did.
I think you did. I'm sure you said they're top of the league, didn't you?
West Brom, Fulham, Burnley, Sheffield United, Brighton. 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's going to be a good battle for both top 4 and bottom 3. I think it's going to be an exciting season.
Well,
big teams aren't sort of giving that fear to the littler teams anymore, are they? Not as much as they used to.
No.
But I get what you're saying. It's exciting, but I prefer a season without anxiety. There's enough going on in world.
Yeah.
Adding to my stress and annoyance with the planet at the minute is Burnley, so need to sort themselves out.
So after 4 weeks, staying on a miserable 6 points is Josh. I don't think you've had a correct result or score for the past 2 predictions. Shit, that mate. To be honest,
It's terrible. Yeah.
Luke, you had 2 points this week from Man United winning 2-0, so that's a correct result. You are on 9 points, and then, sorry boys, I'm absolutely leading the race on 20 points. We're having 5 points from Watford versus Derby, 2 points from Man U winning away at Newcastle, and then a draw with West Brom and Burnley. So, living dream. So,
Well
this
done.
week's fixtures, we're all on Sky Sports again.
What?
Derby versus Notts Forest, Friday night, Sky Sports. Luke, what is your prediction?
Is at Derby, you say?
It is at Derby?
No, it's Forest, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make as much of a difference as it used to, but I still like to know.
Yeah, I'd say Derby lost anyways. Yeah, we're away at Forest.
You're
At
away.
the City Ground.
They're just coming off the back of the last-minute win. You're coming off the back of losing to Huddersfield. I've said before, I think your players want rid of Koku, by the look of it to me. So, Forest 2-0.
Josh.
I'm going to say Forest 2-0, but I'll change it. I'll go Forest 4-0.
Okay, now, boys. Okay, now. Arch bastards. So I reckon it'll be Derby 1, Forest 1. I think it's going to be very boring. 2 very poor sides battling it out for absolutely nothing other than a Brian Clough trophy. So yeah, boring game. So Man U versus Chelsea. Josh.
3-2 Chelsea.
3-2. This is also live Sky Sports at 5:30. If anyone's ever bothered about that, paying 15.
Free as well.
With
No, it's free.
Now
this one.
TV.
Of course, it's free. It's 2 big clubs. But ours isn't.
Ours,
Yeah, yours is on Monday night, Luke.
Why did you
Sky Sports main event.
For 15 quid.
Well, it's if you do your Now TV stuff in it. But so, Josh, what's your result on that? 3-2, you say?
3-2 Chelsea. I don't think that'll actually be the score, but I keep predicting us to lose, and we keep winning. So I think we'll lose.
Timo Werner hat-trick.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. I hope
90.
Kai Havertz keeps up his form.
Scored, didn't he?
He set Danny Ings up.
Not impressed, though, has he? Let's be fair.
No, he's been shit.
German.
Bundesliga.
Kagawa.
Luke, what's your score for that one?
I think Chelsea are wank. Man United 2-0. I do. I think Lampard's a fraud. I think he's spent terribly. He'll be sacked by February.
Ah.
And they'll get and next prediction, and they'll be the club that gets Pochettino.
So I'm going to say I'm very much on the fence, and I called Gaz Davis out for it last week, but I think another 1-1 draw. I can't see anything taken off in that game. I mean, for me, I thought you were lucky against Newcastle. You did play very well against PSG. I mean, like I say, scoring 3 goals in 5 or 6 minutes at the end of that game. So, yeah, 1-1 draw. Luke, big one for you. Monday night, Burnley versus Tottenham. What's your score?
I mean, after the West Brom game, we wanted a nice, easy fixture to carry on our unbeaten form of one game. Might be after the Lord Mayor's show. You know, Mourinho. Why am I being optimistic?
So if Ben Mee's playing, what's the score?
Ben Mee's playing. We might get a point, but I don't know if he will be yet. You'd be mad. I mean, let's be fair. It's going to be Bale, Son, and Kane up against Kevin Long. So, so's Kev. But is that? Are we at home? I don't even know.
Yeah, you are at home.
1-3.
1-3. Josh.
I don't know. Spurs had a weird game, didn't they? They battered West Ham for 75 minutes, and then what an unbelievable comeback that were, by the way.
What a goal.
What a goal. Where did that come from? Like the comeback as a
Lanzini didn't know. He was just there like that. I just scored.
I don't even understand why he was there. Like, why he was in that position. Why weren't he closer to net?
I loved Moyes' celebration. I'm convinced that was the first time in 18 years that he smiled. It was like seeing a corpse. It was like seeing a zombie come out of the ground, like a corpse literally reanimate and be like, "This is life." Amazing.
But unbelievable. Last 10 minutes from there, and what a goal. I do think Tottenham will have to bounce back. I think it'll be 3-0.
3-0. I've got Spurs to win 4-0. I think they're a very good attacking team. Shocking defensively. I don't know what happened to that Klaus for. Eric Dyer didn't go to the toilet. I think that was the problem. But cheers, lads. Cheers, lads. Cheers, lads.
Pie and a pint. Pie and a pint. Pie and a